A 16-year-old boy should not have a cardiologist. Ian Raber does, not because of a heart defect or an unnatural rhythm, but because a hot baseball managed to stop his heart. Miraculously, a cold blanket brought him back. Ian Raber is 16 and about to finish his sophomore year in high school. And that in itself is a miracle because he died on Valentine's Day.
You know, I saw him dead with no pulse, no heartbeat, and I still have nightmares about that.
Didn't he die? Isn't that how you have to look at it? He wasn't breathing. He had no heartbeat, for crying out loud, and for so long. He must have been dead, really.
I watched them zap him 5 times, and he wasn't coming to.
It was an early morning baseball practice at Avondale High School, just a game of catch, really, when a throw glanced off Ian's glove and caught him flush on the chest, right over his heart at just the wrong moment.
Exact millisecond, exact amount of force, exact angle, like everything had to go wrong.
Everything. In fact, it had to hit exactly between 2 heartbeats. But somehow it did, and Ian's heart stopped.
And it's a 1 in a million thing. I mean, it's not like I wasn't looking when he threw the ball, you know. It went off my glove because I was trying to catch it.
The first call from the school went to 911. The second went to Ian's mother, who was there in a flash, in time to see something no mother should ever see.
And I walked through the gym doors, and I saw him laying on the floor. And EMS was working on him, and I ran over, and I looked at him, and I just started crying. I didn't know what to do. I just tried to stay out of the way because I knew they were doing everything they could. And I just asked them, I said, "Do you have a pulse?" And they said, "No, we don't."
Because no one used a defibrillator or started CPR, 24 minutes without a heartbeat, probably about 10 without oxygen before EMS arrived. Logic would tell you that's just too long. And yet,
at that point, I don't think I was letting myself go down the path of he might not make it. I wasn't willing to do that because that was unacceptable. Life without him is not okay.
But what kind of life would it be? What had those minutes of lifelessness done to his brain? Thank goodness someone at the hospital in Pontiac remembered that a clinical trial was underway at Children's Hospital in Detroit. Hopeful, but experimental.
When I was driving to the hospital after we left the trauma unit, and I'm in my car by myself and she's in the ambulance with Ian, it was one of the darkest moments of my life.
The trial treatment is what you might call intentional hypothermia. The young patient is sandwiched between 2 water-filled blankets.
Scientific evidence suggests that fever after having a cardiac arrest can be harmful to a person's recovery.
The theory is that cooling the body down to 90 degrees or so stops or dramatically reduces the neurological damage that generally comes with cardiac failure. But every study needs a control group too. So when Ian's parents agreed to try it,
it's a lottery, and you're either getting the full treatment or just sort of a partial treatment that maintains body temperature. So once we sort of bought into the idea of we want to be in the program, then you're hoping to actually get the full treatment. So yeah, and you don't know if you will or not.
It turned out Ian was getting the experimental hypothermic treatment, a process that took 4 days, a medically induced coma, and a Twilight Zone experience for his parents and sister, wondering what was happening inside Ian's brain. But when he came out of it, he recognized the faces in the room, a magical moment. And while his memory and energy levels were nicked a bit, it was indeed Ian who woke up.
And I thank God every single night that he gave him back to us.
But the experience left the family with a cause. It's hard not to wonder, what if?
There are several defibrillators at the high school. They were not engaged. There was no CPR until EMS got there. There's some fundamental things that are simple that can be done.
So the Rabers are working with the schools on getting staff members up to speed on CPR and on the defibrillators that are already there waiting. As for Ian, oddly enough, he doesn't remember anything about the day he died.
But I don't know. I don't remember, so.
You have no afterlife stories?
No, I've got no stories.
Always wrong about that. No, quite a story to tell indeed. There are 16,000 cases of pediatric cardiac arrest every year, many of them not nearly as freakish as Ian's. And that's why it's so important for schools and other facilities to be prepared. Ian's school had 2 AEDs, but neither were brought to the scene. Our Dr. Frank McGeorge says that's not uncommon, and the reason why may surprise you.
That's right, Devin. Lots of schools, gyms, and even businesses have defibrillators just like this one. But when an emergency happens, these life-saving devices often are not being used. So tomorrow night at 5, I'll show you the major flaw that could be putting you or your child at risk.